What is up, everyone? Welcome back to part 3 of the RotoWire DFS Premier League team preview show. My name is Jack Burkart. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Burkart, joined once again by Ryan Belongia. We are not doing a changing cast, but I have this intro so dialed in that it is never, ever going to change. But Ryan, let's dive right in. The next team that I want to cover is Everton. So Everton continued to be managed by Sean Dyche, and they finished 15th overall, which seems fairly bad, Ryan, but I think Everton might have been a slightly unlucky team. They were punished pretty harshly for financial rules, which, of course, Manchester City are not going to suffer with whatsoever. So they took like a 6-point deduction, maybe even more, and still salvaged being safe, with 2 games to spare, I think. We can tell from their DFS ratings that they were pretty much like a neutral matchup, which I think is like atypical of a team. We were thinking that Everton stink, but they actually played fairly competently overall. I mean, their XG was 54 and they only scored 40 goals. You could probably attach a lot of that to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and his awful finishing. But Ryan, I think Everton are a team that can improve and actually play pretty well. I don't think they're so bad. People think Pickford stinks, but Pickford's a fine goalkeeper. Some old players like Ashley Young, but a decent squad overall. I mean, if Calvert-Lewin can finish, he's a good player. Dwight McNeil's a decent Premier League player. Jack Harrison's a good Premier League player. I know Branthwaite and Tarkowski are really good center backs as well. So, Ryan, what's your outlook on Everton? Are you well, I'm not going to say they're going to be like a top 5 team, but I think they could be a top 10 team if things go well for them. What do you think?
Well, Jack, you may want to hit the betting markets because Everton are plus 162 to be relegated, which are the highest, lowest, whatever you want to say, odds of all the non-promoted teams. I found that a bit curious, yeah. But looking at their squad, there's just not a lot of goals in it. You need an improvement from Calvert-Lewin for sure. They did add, I think an important addition could be Jesper Lindstrom. They're going to need something out of him. They got him on loan from, was he on Napoli? I believe some Italian club, maybe not Napoli. I don't remember. But he was really good and really promising on Frankfurt a couple years before that. Still a young, attacking, creative player. So I think he could be important for them. The other attacker they signed is Ilman Ndiaye from Marseille, I believe, who Marseille signed from Stoke. People probably know Ndiaye from his Stoke days a little bit, but he's young too. He was okay for Marseille, but they're going to need some more goals, I believe. They lost Onana, who by the money would say is their best player. I don't know, he fetched 50 million and, started every game for Belgium and clearly, is a good Premier League player despite, the qualities he lacks. So I think that it's a loss not to have a guy like Onana in there for sure. So they have some guys that need to step up in midfield and fill that void. But yeah, will there be enough goals there, I guess? Sean Dyche is probably the manager you want for this team in this scenario. It would probably be a battle to keep them up, lowish scoring games, defense, organization, crosses, counterattack. Really, can Calvert-Lewin find better form, really? Because, there was a time when he was ready to go to a bigger club and where he was pretty highly rated. But, he's a little bit older now. He's dealt with some injuries, and I think it's clear that he's just not anything special for the most part. So, yeah, I worry about Everton scoring goals. I think they're going to need something from their 2 new signings, and they're not even that great of signings, but Lindstrom has potential. There was a time when people thought Lindstrom was going to be pretty damn good, and he's still not that old. So I'm somewhat excited about what Lindstrom can add to the team. I know he's taken some set pieces in the past. Will he take over McNeil? I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. Probably not. But at least, there's a possibility.
Yeah, well, I think I cooled my jets someone, so I won't be jamming Everton top 10 bets, but maybe I get a good price and I just throw a cheeky $5 on there. Better than putting it in a high yield savings account, that's for sure. I think it's a really good point about the goals, Ryan. I was going to make fun of Adam for having Doucouré as the leading goal scorer and second leading assister, but I don't think that's wrong, actually. Dukes is just Adam's boy, but he's probably one of the most important goal scoring players for them. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I try not to insult players too much for their finishing because it can be so volatile, but man, Calvert-Lewin did so bad in like some really key spots where I had some money on him, and it's just so painful. He's such a painful name to click in DFS, but if the finishing goes back even close to like median level, I think that'll be good. And then I did say they got unlucky only scoring 40 goals, but their expected goals being about 54, that's not particularly good either. That's like below Brentford. So I think some good counterpoints made there overall. I guess Beto could score some goals too, Ryan. I mean, he didn't look awful, and I think he got hurt, but I don't know. Maybe by committee they can find enough guys who score 8 goals apiece. But that would be very annoying for DFS.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen with their defense, because you mentioned they had two decent center backs in Branthwaite and Tarkowski. Branthwaite especially wanted by bigger clubs, and you wouldn't be surprised. He probably will be at a bigger club soon, but they paid like $25 million for this Jake O'Brien from Lyon, I believe. So you would think he's going to be a starter, but you wouldn't think either of their other two center backs would be benched. So I don't know. We'll wait and see on that. But yeah, Everton, another one of these teams that I think they're going to, 1-0 is going to be the result that they're looking for a lot of times.
Yeah. I know I heard Branthwaite was like connected. This was a Champions League announcer, so it could be wrong, to like Real Madrid. Like, I don't know. They were speaking very highly of him. Like,
I've heard Man United too. He seems to kind of like the type of player Man United would sign, like, a Harry Maguire replacement sort of thing.
Yeah, so maybe that Jake O'Brien is anticipation for that, but we simply do not know that now, and I haven't seen much heat on the transfer wire about Branthwaite, so we'll have to see overall with that. I don't know, Ryan, any final takeaways on Everton? I mean, we're probably going to end up playing $3,500 Ashley Young at some point this season.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Yeah, I will. I think 2 years ago I wrote it's 2022 and then we're playing Ashley Young, and last year I wrote it's 2023 and we're playing Ashley Young. It might be time to write it's 2024 and we're playing Ashley Young. But hey, he gets a couple crosses. Let's move on to our next team, Ryan. It's Fulham, and it's a team I'm actually pessimistic about. So the one thing I like to see about some of these teams, Ryan, is that they have some continuity at the managerial level. So, they have had Marco Silva for a while, and he's a pretty good manager. And they definitely have some good players. Like Andreas has played pretty well for them. And Muniz was just absolutely terrific, especially in the second half of the season. But Ryan, some of these outgoing players for Fulham are pretty brutal losses overall. I mean, João Paulinho going away really hurts. I think he's one of the best, holding midfielders out there. I mean, Bobby D. Cordova-Reid is a depth piece that they're losing, which definitely hurts a little bit. And I thought Tosin Adarabioyo actually played well, but maybe it was mixing him up with Calvin Bassey. I can't remember who was making all the gaffes. So Ryan, it's a team that they added Ryan Sessegnon. They're going to need to add more players, because if there's a team that I would maybe want to take a relegation bet on, Fulham might be it. I mean, maybe Muniz doesn't find the form and then their attackers just aren't quite good enough. I don't know, Ryan. It's a team I want to see improve. Am I being too tough on this Fulham side? Do you think that they can play pretty well this season?
I don't think you're being too tough. They're plus 550 to be relegated, which is like the eighth worst, or the 8th best odds.
Are they just basing these markets on previous finish? Like it doesn't.
I'm trying to at least think they have plus 550. Level. They're about the same as Brentford. I mean, losing Paulinho is a big loss. They did sign. They did make a big signing today. Straight out of the Hale End Academy, the Croydon De Bruyne, as we called him at Arsenal, Emile Smith-Rowe. Guy responsible. I mean, always going to have a place in every Arsenal fan's heart. Like when Arsenal were at their lowest point, it was really Smith-Rowe and Saka who pulled them out of it, Martinelli a little bit, but a guy who was unlucky with some injuries, and then just unlucky that Arsenal's squad is so ridiculous that he's just not really going to get in it too much. But I think massive potential still, Smith Rowe, really rooting for him. If he can stay healthy, I think that's a very good signing.
Where would he play, Ryan? Would he replace like a Harry Wilson or Iwobi in attack, or would he play more defensively?
I was wondering the same thing. I think his best position is sort of like a central attacking role, but we saw Pereira sort of in that position. But like, Arsenal used him on the wing a few times, but he's not a winger really. I think his best position is somewhere in the center, but you want him attacking too. Like he's a central midfielder, but also an attacker, and really not quick enough to be a winger necessarily. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I was wondering the same, what they're going to do with Pereira and Smith Rowe. We'll see, but there should be some goals in this Fulham team still. So, they have they still have some okay attackers, Muniz, Harry Wilson, the two guys, Pereira, Smith Rowe, Iwobi was okay at times. And Marco Silva got them playing well. They're a streaky team, but we've seen them play well. I think they can be okay, Jack. I don't know. When I look at those odds and Fulham and Brentford sort of right next to each other in the relegation odds, to me, I think Fulham are the better team. I think that's like a little disrespectful, but again, João Palhinha is a big loss. We saw Fulham capitulate a few times too. And Palhinha is your number one defense against that. So they're going to have to, figure something out. You could see them allowing a lot of chances and conceding a lot of goals.
Yeah, I'm just not really impressed by Tim Ream, who's kind of an older player now, and Calvin Bassey. I don't think he was particularly good. So if they lose, it's because I'm worried that they're just leaking too many goals. Like the defensive midfielders are definitely going to have, huge shoes to fill overall. But maybe a team, Ryan, that might be in some more up and down games. As long as they don't completely quit, there could be a few goals on both sides. I feel like
I feel like they need to sign someone. They can't be done yet. I'm just looking at their team. They're going to need a defensive midfielder because Sasa Lukic is not it. He's fine, but he's old and not a guy that's going to play 90 minutes every game. And Harrison Reed the same, not a guy that you can have in as your anchor. They need to sign find yourself a young Moises Caicedo type, one of those types of play. They really need a guy like that.
Yeah. I think I completely agree. I mean, one player we haven't mentioned is Anthony Robinson, who I think was the Fulham player of the year. Just a nice DFS commodity. I mean, he doesn't take set pieces or anything, but he wins a lot of duels, which gives him some tackles won. So he gets these stupid defensive points that we all complain about. And then he'll cross a lot too in favorable spots. So just one other piece
great player.
Mentioning.
Yeah, great player. Pretty good for DFS. Very good for real life. Yeah, I agree.
Any final words on Fulham, Ryan?
No. Hopefully they bring in a replacement for Palhinha, and I think if Smith Rowe stays healthy, he's going to surprise some people with how good he is.
I think I agree with you. Overall, I remember Smith Rowe was when I kind of started playing DFS, and he was a jam. So, someone who definitely has that in him. All right, let's bring up probably one of the more exciting teams, Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp is leaving, which is going to be a big change, but they do sign Arne Slot, I believe, from Feyenoord, so you can just yell at me if I got that wrong. They played pretty well last year, one of the best attacking teams overall. So my DraftKings offense rating, they're scoring 18 above expectation against average defensive opposition, which beats even that of Manchester City, while still kind of maintaining an all right defense. Not particularly lucky or unlucky. Ryan, I think some of the narrative with Liverpool is going to be how do they play under the new manager. So I'd be interested to know what you expect from Arne Slot. And then just one thing I have to get off my chest on the airwaves. This is part of the privilege of doing this. I've been watching games at pubs, and I was watching Uruguay, and all these Liverpool fans were just like insulting Darwin from like minute one, like saying how bad he is and how he can't play. And we've talked about this privately, Ryan. It just tilts me so much because I bet if I look at expected goals, Darwin isn't even that bad. And he probably misses a couple bad chances and makes some absolutely brilliant ones. I think he adds a lot for the team. He's always a very active player with a ton of shots. And I think he probably adds a different element that only he can offer this Liverpool attack. Probably, be a little bit more physical, play with his back to the ball. I don't know. I'm just sick of people saying that he's a bad player just because he's in bad goal scoring form. It's like the Giroud haters. I mean, I think they're just wrong. And I'm hoping that Darwin has a pretty good season so that I can replay this take. But get your Liverpool take.
I'm with you. I really like Darwin. Yeah, he misses some easy chances. Yeah, he I don't know, isn't the smartest player maybe sometimes, but just so elite at getting into those positions. And you see all the 10 out of 10 difficulty goals he does score. Like, yeah, I mean, any Liverpool, if I'm a Liverpool fan, I want Darwin in my team. But yeah, I've heard just about Liverpool in general. They haven't brought in anyone yet, haven't lost anyone yet. People seem to think that Salah could go, which would obviously change things, but let's just assume he stays. They've got a ton, Liverpool. So yeah, I think they're going to score a bunch of goals again. I think Gakpo is just ready to break out. He's another one who was really criticized last year. And even from the start, like watching him at the start of the season, I have to admit I wasn't sure on him, but towards the end of the season, he really came on. In Euros, he was great. Yeah, I think he's going to score a ton of goals and have a ton of assists this year. I could see him being Liverpool's best attacker even. Salah's sort of getting up there and, yeah, might even be sold. But, yeah, just really impressed with Gakpo overall. From a DFS perspective, I mean, we're probably going to have Trent and Robertson on the sets again. Soboslai there too. Sort of a wait and see thing. I could see it being just like a similar. Liverpool is very similar. Their manager is attacking. Feyenoord scored a ton of goals last year. They have the talent to do it again. I could see a very similar Liverpool team. Scoring goals, conceding some goals, some inconsistent play, which probably, keeps them behind City and Arsenal. But like some goals some games where they just look great attacking. And yeah, I think Gakpo is going to have a really good season.
I agree. Gakpo really was, probably one of the most key clicks you had to make at the end of last season. That's what all the best players were doing. I was a little bit slow to that Gakpo trend, so shout out to them if you saw him sort of evolve into it. Right, I've seen some rumors that Luis Diaz might go to like Barcelona or something because they missed on the Nico Williams signing, but it seems like they have enough attacking depth overall. I did want to ask about Soboslai from a set piece perspective. It feels like he got to enjoy a lot more freedom on RB Leipzig, and he played a slightly more conservative role. Klopp was also subbing him off at 65 minutes, and he's a player who regularly goes 90 for country, so I wasn't sure if fitness was an issue or he just had a lot of midfielders to choose from. Do you think Soboslai can thrive in this system with Slot?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point to bring up. Definitely. Yeah, we see him he had so much more freedom for Leipzig and then all the freedom in the world for his country. And always a 90-minute player, and he's fit for 92. He's actually, he's a fit player. He's pretty fast too, and he's not just a technical guy. So, yeah, I think you could see a lot more from Soboslai this season. From DFS, obviously we're going to want him on set pieces. Liverpool sets can be kind of annoying, but I think I'm hoping we'll see either him or Trent take the right-footed stuff, and then it's just them. But I don't know. You never know, I guess. But yeah, I think there's room for potential there. They have, some other. They're kind of deep in midfield, at least, so you can see why they get subbed or why he got subbed. But yeah, I don't know. he has the potential to be good enough where, he's just an every game starter and you don't want to sub him. Kind of surprised. Surprised he didn't take off more last season, but I don't know. Yeah, Klopp was just they always had like a bunch of other midfielders to get in, like get Gravenberch in, get Harvey Elliott, even Curtis Jones. And, guys like McAllister's his spot's not up for grabs. And if you're going to play Endo, those are guys that can be out there for 90 minutes. And then, a guy like Sobo will get subbed. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think it's just how it works, right? You have 5 subs to make. Endo has such an important role on that team. I know some Liverpool fans were talking. He might have transformed their season, just being able to keep things pinned down as a defensive midfielder. And I'm not going to sub off McAllister either. So it might just be, he's just the person who gets subbed because it's just how it works out with the talent profile. A couple notable things, Ryan. Open play floor wise, Robertson and TAA were around 9 points. That's definitely not elite or anything like that. So the set piece situation is going to be very important. I know I've kind of bickered with you on TAA a bit, and I kind of want him to have set pieces. I know he has that goal ceiling, and this is just floor. But, when he's like 7,000 and it's questionable if he takes sets, 9-point floor, I don't know, maybe it changes and maybe he doesn't have to tuck in as much.
Yeah.
But I think that'll make some tough decisions.
It's going to be interesting. And is he going to play right back? What's the formation going to look like? Klopp had been having him drift in to the midfield. Connor Bradley's there, who arguably looked like a better right back than Trent, at least in some ways, not better at shooting or crossing or picking a pass, but at the physical part of the game. We saw Trent get exposed for England. Clearly, he's just not quick enough to play in the midfield. I don't think he was going to do that at Liverpool anyways. But yeah, I guess I'll be looking for how Liverpool use the defenders, Trent and Robertson, because they're so important for DFS.
Yeah, we'll see. If it's like Soboslai and Robertson on sets for some reason.
Samika's there too. I forgot. They got ready-made replacements that are they going to be? Yeah, who's going to be subbed? Look for the sub patterns early with the new manager, that kind of stuff. There'll be some growing pains, I'm sure, for us when we're at Liverpool showdowns and that kind of stuff.
We already saw it. Robertson was getting subbed early for Tsimikas and vice versa, and Trent's minutes were not guaranteed when in previous seasons they had been guaranteed. Wasn't subbing off Salah, and it just worked out that one of those guys was gonna get the hook. Definitely adds some variance overall. So yeah, some wait and see there, as you had said previously, Ryan. Hopefully they play similar, but the ins and outs, we'll want to react quickly to those, I think. Any final words on Liverpool?
No.
Well, let's move on to our next promoted team then. We have Ipswich Town, who finished, I believe, second place in the championship. So they earned their promotion without having to go through the playoff. Ryan, I think one of the big things that stands out to me, I don't really know many of these Ipswich Town players. I didn't play much EFL, so I'll leave the player analysis to you. All I know is that Leif Davis was $10,000 in these slates as a fullback. I believe he's a set piece monopolist. So we have someone who's sort of, who is that Luton Town guy? I can't quite think of his name.
Alfie Doughty?
Yeah, he has some Alfie Doughty in him, so that'll be interesting. Overall, Ryan, I kind of am concerned Ipswich Town got a little lucky. They scored 18 more goals than expected per XG, and but they did concede a few too many as well. And I guess what they have going for them is that Kieran McKenna, he was rumored to be the Chelsea candidate. So a manager who's really highly rated overall. Maybe he can bring this group of players together, but they're going to be very inexperienced. All these incoming players, we know Muric from Burnley and his 8 save performances constantly. Maybe that'll continue, but that was probably just a Burnley thing. I don't know. I think this team might have a tough time, Ryan, but maybe you can get us excited about some of the individual players and maybe Ipswich Town's play style. So why don't you tell us some optimistic stuff about Ipswich Town coming into the season?
Yeah, I don't know if I have that much, but I would guess that the reason why Leicester, I was questioning why Leicester were favored to be the worst team or had the best relegation odds. It's probably because there's more continuity at Ipswich, like you said, with the manager, and he's a good manager. He's been there a while. He was linked with bigger clubs. But yeah, if you just look at their roster, certainly looks weaker. You mentioned Leif Davis. So for DFS, yeah, you're going to learn Leif Davis pretty quickly, for sure. He takes almost all the sets. So yeah, I assume we'll be playing him a lot. We'll see what they do with his price. As far as their players, I think they're going to be relying on two guys from like an attacking point of view. Two young, like Amari Hutchinson on loan from Chelsea is their highest rated player. I would expect like a lot of the creativity to come from him. They're going to need some goals from him. And then they also have Liam Delap on loan from City. Another real promising player. So Hutchinson on loan from Chelsea and Delap on loan from City. Yeah, they're going to be expected to contribute a lot, I think. Like who did they have last year? This George Hurst character, not necessarily a Premier League quality striker. I don't know. I don't want to sell the guy short, but yeah, they're going to need. I don't know a lot about their players other than the two guys they got on loan. I didn't watch much of them last year. Played a little in DFS, and it was just Leif Davis. And hopefully you get something from somebody else. But when a guy is taking all your set pieces, and you're going to be one of the worst teams in the league, there's no real floor outside of that. So it'll be a price thing on certain slates, maybe a talent thing. We'll see how good this Hutchinson is. See how good Delap is. It's nice when these guys get to play rather than sit on the bench or play in the reserves or play in the cup for the bigger teams. So yeah, I think they'll be relying on those two guys, and I don't know. That's all I got, Jack. I don't have much. I don't know any of their other players.
Yeah, I mean, maybe some of the EFL sickos really have a lot more inside baseball.
Yeah, I didn't play
knowledge.
Much, unfortunately.
I think that's fine. We don't want to have to play those 10-match EFL slates that kick off a half hour before Champions League. That's I think we save that for some of the true sickos like Bear, who has the bandwidth to handle that. It's tough. Like you said, with a set piece monopolist, you need players with open play, and that's just probably not going to happen with Ipswich Town. I mean, maybe they just hit the ground running and are absolutely brilliant, but yeah.
Oh, okay. I do have something else to add.
Oh,
their highest valued player is Greaves, the center back. They signed. He's a signing. They signed him from Hull City, but he's just checking out Transfer Market. They have him valued at 15 million, which I think is about what they paid for him, and then no other players on Ipswich with a $10 million price tag. So they don't have much there. But yeah,
tough.
Greaves is their big signing as a center back. Yeah, it's going to be tough, I think, for Ipswich, and that's why they have the second highest relegation odds at minus. They're favored to be relegated at minus 138.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. So it might just be Leif Davis, and maybe maybe George Hurst is the guy that we need. I somehow doubt that. Tough situation when you're reliant on academy players from Chelsea and City to kind of lead you to the promised land.
Right.
But we've seen players able to contribute like that. Wasn't there's an
McAtee?
Arsenal? Yeah, McAtee. There was an Arsenal loanee to Palace a year or two ago who was awful when he played for Arsenal, but was a good player in the midfield for Palace.
How do I not know?
Was
that?
it Sambi
Lokonga?
Yeah,
you're right. Sambi was great. Big clubs want Sambi again. Yeah, but you're right. He was not very good for Arsenal, and then flourished last season a bit for Luton. And
I don't know. Maybe this means that Omari Hutchinson and Liam Delap are players who can maybe make a difference for Ipswich Town at this level. They, these top clubs are so spoiled for riches at all levels. So yeah, we will see overall. Any final words on Ipswich?
No, I don't think so. No.
I don't have anything.
Connor Chaplin, I'm looking at our projections. He's their number 10. He's their second striker.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know much about him, but he had 13 goals, 8 assists last year. So clearly they're going to be relying on him. He's their number 10. I just see 27 years old. Just don't know much about him, but gonna need him. They're gonna need these guys to contribute.
Yeah, well, it's going to be tough. I mean, I was kind of insulting Fulham, but their squad is definitely better than this Ipswich squad. So they're definitely going to have to. I think they're going to have to punch above their weight as things stand overall. Yeah. Let's get into another fun team to talk about, Ryan. Manchester United. So I think it's kind of ridiculous that Manchester United kept Aaron Ten Hag again. I'm not really sure why. It didn't really seem like the fans like him that much. It doesn't seem like the players like him that much. And the performances weren't particularly good. So I was going through the teams. I'm like, well, maybe they just had maybe they were unlucky, but their XG against was 68.9 goals and they only conceded 58. So United were lucky not to be embarrassed a little bit more. And then, Ryan, something we discovered towards the end of last season is that Manchester United were a sneaky good team to target. Even if it was Luton Town, you could play those guys against Manchester United, allowing a ton of shots. But on average, United conceded 10 more fantasy points against an average team compared to other teams in the league. So it's much more about as bad as West Ham overall and some of the relegation sides. And they just played this really passive style. They wanted to play on the counterattack. Really frustrating team. Erik Ten Hag might not be long for United. Kind of curious to keep him on. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, Ryan. Do you think much is going to change overall for United? They have Euro as a new signing, but he's hurt, and maybe Xerxes can be a goal-scoring player that they need. It seems like it's going to be more of the same, though, to me, from first impression.
Yeah. So I thought it would have been a little tough on Ten Hag for him to get sacked after this season. I thought I would have understood it because they were so bad at the start, but they did play a little better at the end. I don't think he was helped at the start of the season either. There was a time when United were starting Casemiro, Bruno, and I'm blanking on that guy's name. They signed a midfielder from some Spanish team, and he was the slowest guy we've ever seen. They tried to play him at left back too. They signed him for $40 million.
He was the Moroccan guy, right?
Yeah, him. But it gave United the slowest midfield in the Premier League, basically. The least quick midfield in the Premier League. And teams were just running by them. And then Kobe Mainoo came in, who is just going to be elite. And I think that so it's huge that they have Mainoo in there. From the start, they were much better and he's only going to get better, obviously, already in the England team, just ridiculous talent. But back to what you said, I still think, just based on the way Ten Hag has them playing, they're a team where you can target opponents against them too. Yeah, we saw them concede a ton of floor points, a ton of chances. I don't think it'll be quite that bad this season. I think Mainoo helps quite a bit. But no, I'm still not sold on United. I think it's going to be ups and downs, just like this last year. For DFS, probably very frustrating games when you think they should be the team on top or creating more chances and they don't. We saw that plenty of times last season, playing down to their competition. They signed Lenny Yoro. He's already hurt. That's tough. It was a big signing too. They paid a ton of money for him. Xerxes, you would think he should help. I mean, him and Højlund, can't really see them playing together. Although I don't know, but you would think that they're both. I see them as both number 9s. I mean, Højlund struggled quite a bit in the Euros. I would say he disappointed overall for United, but still a guy with potential. He's just athletically, he's such a freak that you can't give up on him yet. But I would think they'll be better, Jack. Another year for Ten Hag, another year for Kobe Mainoo, one more attacker in Xerxes. So, I would think they'd be better and score more goals. But I also think they're an okay team to target sometimes. And in spots where maybe other people aren't, or even showdown spots. I guess that. So yep. I'm more optimistic. But still, I'm not in on United. I see them having their struggles too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to play Bruno, who's going to take every single set piece. But, if it's maybe a marginal spot like Brentford is on the road at Old Trafford in a 3-game slate, like I will play Brian and Mbeumo. Like if that spot came up early based on last season, that's not the type of thing I worry about. Even though it's like, oh, Jack, they're 60% favorites. I think this is like one of the clear spots where if you just look at a different point of view, you can see that you can attack that without just blindly looking at money line odds. And there are some optimistic spots. Garnacho is pretty good. Oh no, another player people think is bad, Wan-Bissaka. I think he's on the way out at United. I saw Luke Shaw was in Adam's projected lineup. I mean, come on, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a better player than Luke Shaw. Like, he's such a good defender too. But people are like, oh, he can't cross. Well, I mean, like, you have 10 other players on the pitch. So just add that to the list of annoying takes of players I think are good that get hated on. But
yeah, it seems like Wan-Bissaka is about to be sold. I'm pretty sure. I think he's going to West Ham. Oh, what an addition for West Ham. We'll see. Yeah, I agree. It's not official yet, but yeah, it'd be a nice signing.
I mean, he would play left back, right?
No, right back.
Right back. So he would replace Soufal. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that when we do West Ham in the next video. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, I think United, the moral of the story is they have to prove it that they can be a team that can dominate games, which is something they really haven't shown yet. So we will see. Any more words on United?
Apparently Inter are trying to hijack West Ham's move for Wan-Bissaka. So that tells you everything you just said right there. If a team like Inter wants Wan-Bissaka, yeah, obviously that'd be a good signing for West Ham. And just from a defensive point of view, he's one of the best defenders around.
Yeah, that would be for how Inter play. That would be a pretty good addition for them overall. Probably plays a third center back. We will see. Any last words on United, Ryan?
Nope.
All right, let's get to our last team, a team that kind of had some ups and downs throughout the season, Newcastle United. So they managed under Eddie Howe for a while and finished 7th. But Ryan, there were times when I was joking in the Discord that like Eddie Howe was going to get fired earlier in the season because Newcastle were pretty brutal early on. I know they had suffered some injuries throughout the season, but they were able to salvage a pretty good finish overall, and they played pretty well, especially towards the end of the season. I mean, this is a team that made Champions League last year, and they're going to be playing in the Conference League this year. Do you fancy Newcastle as a team that might be able to challenge for like a top 4 spot? It seems like a bit of a long shot. I don't think like Lloyd Kelly makes a huge difference. I don't know any of the other signings they've made really. Vlachodimos is not really a goalkeeper signing. Lewis Hall is fine. I don't know. Do you think this is a team that can sort of like reach those previous highs they got, or maybe 7th place is about, they're kind of like a team similar to Tottenham, 7th, 6th place sort of thing?
That's 7th, 6th place sort of thing is what I would think. Just they don't have quite enough, I don't think. Is Sandro Tonali coming back at all soon? I think he might be. I think the midfield could be really good. Bruno G, obviously coveted by big clubs, linked with Arsenal and other teams. They need to hold on to these guys, but put Tonali in there and guys like Longstaff and that's a good midfield. Isak started to establish himself as one of the better strikers in the world, had a really good second half of the season, played good for Sweden too recently. So it's a big plus to have Isak in there. He's getting to be one of the better strikers in the world. And Anthony Gordon, too, started to come on, played for England. So, yeah, there's potential there. I think they need a little more, though. They need more to challenge for top 4 for sure. But they can be like the same type of team they were last year, where like on their day, they look really good. But maybe not consistent enough to get in the top 4. Like so far, all they've signed is Lewis Hall. He was there last year on loan, and they lost Elliot Anderson to Forest. He wasn't really playing for them, but he's someone that's thought of as having big potential. Yeah, I think they need a signing or two if they want to compete for the top. But without one, yeah, I think they'll be right there with the Tottenham, Aston Villa, with that group.
Yeah, I think I agree overall. Isak looked shockingly athletic. I didn't fancy him an athletic player. I just thought he was slow for some reason, but he looked really athletic, really
very fast
footwork. So a player who I underestimated, and I don't think I'll do that again. although, not much of a floor, but, still always one of the slate's more likely goal scorers, especially in decent matchups. Ryan, for DFS, the probably most surprising thing about this whole exercise was that Kieran Trippier's open play for was below 7 points, which is extremely mediocre. Now, we were always playing Trippier for his set piece monopoly, but I do remember playing showdowns where I would be like, a DM should be like, what the hell? Like, Trippier's not doing anything in this matchup. Like, he just simply wasn't contributing from open play, even from the right back position. And then we've seen some players like Jacob Murphy, ascend on that side of the wing. Gordon was really good overall, especially when he took set pieces. He was one of the best plays. So I guess my question is, even with set pieces, do you think it might be a split for Newcastle? So do you think Trippier would still be a monopolist? And do you see any signal in this? Like, should we start to maybe be more willing to fade Trippier? I've always been beating the fade Trippier drum, but I think there's some steam to it overall based on this open play downgrade he's had.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. He started to struggle last year defensively too. He's 33 now. I'm not even sure he will be with Newcastle. He's been subject to some transfer rumors recently. I could see Trippier leaving. But yeah, if he's there, I was starting to fade him towards the end too. He wasn't playing 90 minutes every game. Like I said, he's only 33. That's getting up there, especially for a fullback too. Fullback who already was struggling to defend a little bit. So yeah, we could start to see the downfall of Trippier. Maybe we'll get lucky and he won't even be on Newcastle. It'll make things a little bit easier. I did just check. They did sign a striker. They signed my boy Will Osula.
Oh man, I saw that for 10 million or something.
Yeah. Remember when I told you guys, there's a little bit of talent there you saw with Osula. He's so raw, but just physical gifts are incredible. I mean, just so fast and so strong. Only 20 years old. Like, yeah, I can see why they signed him. But, he needs someone. You're going to need someone probably better and more polished than that if you want top four. But I still liked the signing. Watching Will, so he his ceiling's like an Ollie Watkins type. So, like, I get that. That was nice to see. Let me know I'm not too crazy with my player takes. But yeah, I think Newcastle need a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree that their midfield is really strong. And one player who I might have, if there's a player I've asked you most about overall, it might be Bruno Guimaraes, because he's always sitting there at like high 5K, low 6K, and it's a good matchup for Newcastle. He usually plays 90 minutes, and we see his open play for is surprisingly good for every 90 minutes he goes. Really depends on who he's playing with, Ryan, but he's a player who can contribute, I think, even without set pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just a guy that, I'm trying to think of what to compare him to, but like, he's going to have big games. He has big games in spots where you don't think he will, and then he's the type, though, you jam him against in a great spot for Newcastle, and he might not get there. But we saw him score at least one brace last year, a couple games with a goal and an assist, like some 25-point games. He broke some showdowns. He won me a King of the Pitch ticket, I remember, at like, I might have been the only one to play him. He was like, because, they price him up, and it's like 7% owned or something in some questionable matchup. But, he's just such a good player. You're almost always going to play 90 minutes. Definite nose for goal. I mean, a little bit, from DFS, you can like kind of make the Rodri comparison, but like Bruno should even be a little bit more attacking than that. Maybe have a little even better floor, but at least like it's those type of central midfielders who he's maybe more defensive, not necessarily attacking, that are tough for DFS. But yeah, just such a good player, and it's going to get there in spots. Like, yeah, those 7 goals and 8 assists, like a Rodri type stuff. And that's what's going to happen again, I think.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, the numbers and roles seem fairly similar to Rodri, and both also very talented players who we kind of underestimate. But I mean, you look at the contributions, 7 goals, 8 assists. Let's see what Adam is projecting for him. Sort by goals right here. Yeah, I mean, 5 goals and 7 assists. That's a really productive player. That's a player who you want to target at low ownership, who's absolutely capable of nuking slates. And Ryan, you talked about like the 7% player. So we're towards the end, so I can meander a little bit. But like in Showdown, I've struggled a lot in Showdown. I played really chalky, and I've been reading poker books now. We played some poker in Vegas. I want to get myself in some more situations where it's like I play a player and I know I'm probably going to lose 60% of the time in certain contests, but have that mammoth ceiling that they can like pay me off. Like Bruno feels like the nut flush sort of, hitting that spot, and you kind of want to play him for that type of equity and be okay losing a bit. I think that's just how you have to play Showdown. I'm not willing to play subs like you, but
yeah,
just want to
well
identify
said.
plays like that.
Well said. I think you nailed it. Yep.
All right. Well, why make it more complicated? Ryan said I nailed it. So that wraps it up for our third video. We are going to record the fourth one right after this. So make sure you find that. And thank you so much for listening to us, everyone. We will see you in the next video.